Welcome and thank you for joining us today. Today we will be sharing how the Gear Up Iowa program impacted post-secondary education for our cohort. Gear Up is a federally funded program aimed to increase post-secondary opportunities and success for low-income students. Gear Up Iowa 2.0 was awarded as a state grant to Iowa College Aid, starting with a cohort of students in 2014. We partnered with 12 districts across the state of Iowa, ranging from small rural to large urban. We started with the students in 7th grade and they're currently in their first year of college. If you'd like more information about Gear Up Iowa, I recommend going to gearupiowa.gov to get some more information. Before we dive too much into this presentation, I just wanted to give my colleagues an opportunity to introduce themselves. I've had the privilege of working with these amazing facilitators throughout the last few years of this grant, and I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. I'll start. My name is Nathan Savari. I'm one of the Gear Up Iowa facilitators. I served Des Moines and Denison for the last year that we were at the high school, and currently this year I'm serving 5 of our college partners.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Medina, pronouns they, them, theirs. I got the opportunity to serve Columbus Junction, Ottumwa, Marshalltown Community College, or sorry, not community college, Marshalltown High School, Perry High School, and also for a short while, Denison High School. Currently right now in the 7th year, my project is around student engagement and making sure that students feel welcome on campus.
Hi, everybody. My name is Erin Valerio Garso, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I am currently working with our 5th year seniors, and I have had the privilege of working with all but 4 directly, I think, of our different districts. But right now I get to work with all 12, so it's kind of exciting. Another part of the work that I am doing right now is I am working with kids that potentially had some intentions change because, and we're guessing a lot of this is related to COVID, but we're trying to figure out why they made the choice not to continue to post-secondary, whether into a training or onto a campus. So that is something that I am actively pursuing for our team.
Hi guys, I'm Gracie Zeiger, pronouns she, her, hers, and I am the newest Gear Up facilitator. I've been here a few years now. When we were in the high schools, I worked for Cedar Rapids and Davenport, and now that we're in the 7th year, I work with 4 of our college partners, and then also run our alumni page.
Thank you, everyone. And you'll have an opportunity to hear more from them as we move through our presentation today. And just to give you an overview, we're going to talk a little bit about the intention gap, what that means. We're going to talk a little bit about early and consistent exposure, followed by dedicated staff and barriers, talking about our structured takeoff that we use with Course to College, the Gear Up effect, free resources, as well as how you could join the Gear Up movement for a 3.0. So what is the intention gap? I define the intention gap as students who intend to go on to some form of post-secondary education and do not successfully enroll within that first year of graduating high school. So I'm going to take you through a case study here with the 2018 seniors across the state of Iowa. One thing that we know with the exit survey that the seniors took, 3/4 of the 2018 seniors intended to go on to some form of 2- or 4-year college. I think something that's really interesting as we look at this data, there was 7.6% who were unknown. And then there was also an additional 2.5 who selected other training. And why this is super important is that students who ended up selecting other training, as you well know, may still be going to a community college to pursue that. When you start looking at efforts, or especially around Future Ready Iowa and the Last Dollar Scholarship, a lot of the programs and trainings that students take may be situated at community colleges. So as we start thinking about college and the college going process, they still need to take some steps that our other students who are selecting 2- or 4-year may need to take. Here's something that we also know. We know that students are unintentionally left behind. So what you're seeing here is of the students who were part of the 2018 graduating class, 70% of the students who identify as white were able to successfully enroll in post-secondary education within their first year. And we see a gap with our Black and Latinx students, both of which had 53% of the students successfully enroll in post-secondary education within that first year of graduation. We also know that our low-income students are disproportionately left behind as well unintentionally. When we look at those who successfully enroll, students who are not free or reduced price lunch, 80% of them were able to enroll in post-secondary education, whereas only 50% of our free or reduced price lunch students successfully enrolled within that first year of graduating high school. And I can only assume that you're here because of the same reason that we are. We care passionately about our students, and we want to make sure that they have as many opportunities as possible in order to succeed. And so when we think about the intention gap, I think about opportunities, and I think about ways in which we're opening doors for our students to find success. And so I want you to take a moment and just think, what if there was no intention gap in your school district? What would your school district look like? What would it feel like to work there? What efforts would you be focused on? And I'm not talking about efforts that maybe you're focused on now, but what efforts would you be focused on in that ideal world where you could help bridge that intention gap? The rest of our presentation is around what GEAR Iowa has done to help close the intention gap. Here are some door opening strategies that you'll hear more about. Early and consistent exposure, dedicated staff and support at the building level for implementation, structured takeoff during senior year with course to college. And at this point in time, I'd like to pass it off to Aaron to talk a little bit more about early and consistent exposure.
I'm going to open up the right slide so I can see it as well. I think it's really important that the model of the Gear Up program is a 6 to 7 year model. It depends on when you started and what it looked like. So for our purposes, we started in 7th grade in 2014, and we will follow them through the end of this freshman year in 2021. This has offered us a very unique opportunity because we've been able to do some things that were very intentional toward post-secondary plans. And when you do that, you allow kids to kind of stretch in a way that they may not have thought that they could. And I noticed on our slide here, we have a couple of our smaller districts, Columbus Junction and Denison. And I think what's interesting is Columbus Junction probably has one of the smaller high schools in the state. And it's not the smallest because I know a couple of that are littler, but they had tremendous coaching and teams that worked with those kids that were willing to get them to opportunities. And it's the same, it's the people that will grab onto the opportunities that we're offering that really make a difference. So as you can see by our numbers, in 7th grade, 2,600 students visited a campus. And that is out of a cohort of approximately 8,000 at that point. But the other thing to think about is we didn't really start until October of that year and really start programming till January that year because we were able to get into the schools and do some of the things that we wanted to do. That number for 8th grade was 3617. We do keep track of all of this as a federal grant. As any of you know who works with grant, you have to keep track of what you're doing, what services are offered, those kinds of things. But so over 9,500 students were able to visit college campuses in that 6-year period that we had them from 7th grade to 12th grade. Now, granted, I will say that 8th grade was a bumper crop year for getting kids to go, but that's more about this is what a campus is. This is what it's like. Yes, the cafeteria is a fantastic place to eat as much as you want. It gives them an opportunity to see what that's like. But those 10th and 11th grade visits are much more targeted toward this is kind of what I'm interested in. Am I interested in a small private college? Am I interested in a community college? I really think I want to go to one of the regions. It's kind of that opportunity to hone in on what their goal is. We do the same thing with job shadowing and career visits. And as you can see, it's not as big a number, but generally there's not as many students that are wanting or willing to take those visits when you start. But you notice we had 400 in 7th and 8th grade. And then in 9th grade, that bumped up to a little over 500. But then in 10th grade, we had 1,900 kids that went on job shadows and career visits. So that says to me that the message was resonating, that you don't have to go to college, but you do need to do some training. So this is how you're going to do both. And our community college system in this state is really amazing in terms of the things that they offer and the opportunities that you have, as well as we have a very impressive apprenticeship program and ways to get involved in businesses by getting involved with the leadership of those businesses and learning the trade. So there's a lot of different kinds of opportunities, and we think they're important to all be explored. Summer enrichment programs were another thing we offered. We had 705 kids that participated in those. The challenge for that sometimes is when you're a statewide grant and your state is approximately 500 miles long, you know, it's big. When you're trying to bring kids from all over the place to one place, it gets very, you know, it's complicated. The logistics of that are interesting. But I think that as we, you know, continue to grow and continue to look at what could those things be, there are different ways we could partner with institutions, with your schools, to offer some of those kinds of opportunities. So we've also had some college fairs. Each high school has been interested, you know, in doing some college fairs. I think Elizabeth will talk about that a little bit more during her slide in a minute here. But I think the thing to understand is the more we create a college going culture in a building, the more kids are going to start to think, you know what, that could be me. And all we're saying to them is, do not sell yourself short. That is the biggest part of what the work that we're doing is. You can do this, you have got this, and we are standing behind you with all of your school staff and your counselors and your teachers and your principals and everybody, because we all believe in you. And that is the overriding messages. So whether you are our smallest district or you are our biggest district, you had people who believed in you, just like you do every day. We're just that extra layer. So I am going to now hand it, I believe, to Elizabeth, and she's going to talk about what staffing for these Gear Up programs can look like.
I just kind of want to piggyback off of what Erin said. On the previous slide, you kind of saw where it said college fairs. Prior to being a Gear Up facilitator, I was actually a admissions coordinator. And one of the things that I saw that really that I was very advocate for is college fairs, because that gives students an opportunity, those that didn't go on campuses, an opportunity to really get to see all the schools that are out there, and not just the ones that are in state, but also the ones that are out of state as well. So being able to grab all the information, you know, and not have to really go anywhere besides like your school gym or wherever it's hosted at. So I just found that there was great benefit in that. We had different districts were different depending on their support systems. So depending also on the grant and also how much money was awarded, determine on the construct of how these Gear Up teams would look like. Some school districts had just a Gear Up coach, as we would refer to them, and other school districts had more of a team-like, and not only just in the schools, but also they would bring in other people around the community to kind of help. And these are people who really were sold on Gear Up and that Gear Up works. So you can form your teams however you want. And again, it's also dependent on money and how much you get from the grant. But a lot of the things that the Gear Up coaches would do is to help out the guidance counselors. You know, as we know, a lot of the counselors, you know, at times get very overwhelmed, especially if you have a caseload of 500 students and you're one person. So the Gear Up coach kind of helped there, and was more of an aid to setting up career fairs or job shadows, setting up those campus visits and doing some cognitive learning lessons, and kind of keeping track of students' choices of what they want to do, whether they wanted to do a trade or if they wanted to do, go to a community college or a regent school. So they helped a lot with that, and also they kind of set up a personal relationship. Um, and this differed because there was some schools that ended up getting a Gear Up coach in 10th grade. There were some that had them since 7th grade. I will say that the ones that had them since 7th grade, they were kind of able to see these students evolve from the time that they were in middle school all the way up to they were seniors. And as someone who worked with students kind of on that level of getting them in the door and then seeing them succeed, there's nothing like it. And that's something that, above all, it's an amazing experience, as you all would know. And not to say that having a designated person is the end all be all, because we had schools that had a teacher or a school counselor that would take on all of these roles on top of whatever they do with Gear Up things, and they just knocked it out of the park. And it's because they believe in the message of what Gear Up is. So it's very, very cool. Also, we also got to see a bunch of different schools that were able to evolve from, having a college going culture, but they were able to flourish even more so, just with the resources that we had. So. I think it's, are we frozen? No? Okay. I apologize. Um, um, so, again, just kind of having, and depending on where you're at with the monies and stuff like that, it does help when you have one person that kind of helps out, and aids the counselors. So yeah, I'll kick it off to Nate. Or I apologize, Gracie.
No worries. And honestly, Erin and Medina have highlighted really the core of what the program is, and that is the people who put in the time and effort and that consistent exposure. But one of the things that helped our students, after having all that great support and foundation that our key staff members did and that the experiences did, was having a structured takeoff into whatever their post-secondary steps were. My recommendation is to start in the spring of their 11th grade and sitting down with the students either in small groups or one-on-one, and having each student decide what they think their post-secondary plan will be. 4-year, 2-year, workforce, military, apprenticeship. It doesn't mean that they can't change their mind, but this will give them tangible steps to take over the summer and right out the gate when their senior year starts. Then in the fall of their 12th grade year, the applying process and financing their college education, filling out the FAFSA, looking for scholarships, in spring, celebrating their decisions, no matter what they are, really making them feel empowered that whether it's a 4-year or apprenticeship or straight into the workforce, that their decision is a good one and deserves being celebrated. And then after 12th grade, the go. whether it's supporting them getting to orientations or connecting them with their apprenticeship supervisors, making sure they have those connections so that the next step can be all the more successful. Now, we followed the course to college framework, but this could be done without course to college as well. As for the resources to help you guys get started, we've been doing this for a long time now. And along the way, we have discovered that having toolkits or different sheets and whatnot can really be helpful in not only organizing the professionals, but also helping the students know what to expect from the next leg in their journey. And so all the things I'm about to talk about are free for you guys. Steal them, borrow them, adapt them. We want to make sure that like whatever you guys choose to take, you have some resources to help build that out. So to start with that early exposure, that consistent exposure that Erin was talking about, we have these two toolkits, the campus visit toolkit and the family engagement toolkit. And both of these are meant to help frame out these experiences, the campus visit one especially, to make it as meaningful as possible for the students, to help make sure that they're getting the connections they need for where they are. As Erin and Medina mentioned, like a 8th grade campus visit, they are probably going to take out different things than a 11th or 12th grade campus visit. And so this toolkit helps you make those connections for them. The family engagement toolkit is a resource for you guys to figure out how is the best way to engage with families and make sure that they are informed. So it's a really great resource. I mentioned that ideally in the spring of their 11th grade year, you should maybe have a conversation with them about what is your track, what is your plan. And so for that, we have these, I call them the student track sheets. So if they tell you they want to go to a 4-year or a 2-year or military, they get that specific sheet. And then it goes through and it talks to them, or it goes through and answers the questions of where they are. Have they taken the ACT? Have they taken the ASVAB? What colleges are they interested in and when are the deadlines? But the most important part of this is really those like recommended action steps that are at the bottom of the sheet. So this is something that like you can give to the students and be like, this is what you need to do next. Apply for housing, register for orientation, that type of thing. But it's a way for you guys to be organized and help your students be organized. And we do have a digital version as well. These are really for the students. They're student facing. You, as part of that conversation about student tracks, you can hand this to them as a resource to take home and go over and keep themselves organized. Or if you just want to hang them up outside your counseling office, I had a lot of professionals do that. The students can take them and it literally walks them through the steps for that track. So whether it's university, military, going into the workforce, or getting an apprenticeship. And it's a way for them to stay organized with where they are. As I mentioned, we did course to college as our framework. And we have a document called Your Course to College, which is really like a student parent document to inform you of all the things you need to know about going to college and the important steps, different college information. It's a really great resource and it's free. As a school, you can order a big bulk of them, or students and families can download them for free from the website. And then lastly, it's not out yet, but hopefully end of this year, beginning of next year, we will have a FAFSA toolkit. And this is really for schools to frame out their approach to FAFSA to increase their FAFSA numbers. In our year 6, that was a huge focus for us. Studies show that 90% of students who complete the FAFSA show up to a college campus. That's a national statistic. For Iowa, that's 81%. So it's really one of the best indicators of whether or not a student will actually show up to a campus. So we wanted to take the lessons we learned having gone through our year 6 and put it in a really usable format for schools to take and adapt for their own. We look at FAFSA data, a structured framework of events, tips and tricks, and then there's so many resources on templates you can use, worksheets you can hand to kiddos. So yeah, it's going to be a really useful guide.
Thank you very much. So as you start thinking about this journey that we went on with Gear Up, everything that we've done leading up to this, what kind of effect did we have on students? What kind of impact? I'm really proud to say that our schools did a really great job of getting on board junior year with ACT district testing. We had 9 of our 12 districts utilize Gear Up as the district. 2 were already using district testing and 1 opted for the voucher system. When our students were juniors, we saw a 22% point increase in the amount of students who took the ACT. And then when we compared it to non-Gear Up schools, we saw a trend that was going down slightly in terms of students taking the ACT. And once again, using this as an opportunity or as a door opening strategy, this gives students more options around what post-secondary options might be available to them, as well as if they do score well, there's opportunities for financial assistance as well. So we're really proud of what we did there. Gracie was talking a lot about what we did around FAFSA completion in particular. This was probably, unprecedented, not probably. This was an unprecedented year with what we saw around COVID and everything that was just happening in the world with that. Statewide, nationally, we saw FAFSA rates drop. The state was actually number 2 in year-over-year FAFSA completion rate at -1. So state of Iowa was near the top despite seeing a fall. And nationally, we were down 4.2%. However, when we look at our Gear Up schools and everything that our communities did to support our students, despite COVID, we still saw 5.9% year-over-year FAFSA completion rate increase, which is something that we're super excited about. Because once again, that's an opportunity for our students. They now have that option, with the pandemic, do I go to college? Do I not go to college? What does my financial aid package look like? Those are things they can now weigh. We're still waiting on some final numbers, but we do have a lot of our college partners that are self-reporting that for Gear Up schools or from the Gear Up schools that they're seeing an increase or at least kind of a consistent enrollment line. And this is really important. The other day when I was looking at the news, it sounds like there may be a 16% decrease across the nation in terms of freshmen enrolling in college. And so hopefully for our students, they make the best choices for them. Maybe that yields more of our students deciding to go on and finding success with college. But once again, this is just a very unique time with COVID and how that's just drastically impacted college and college going processes. And so from here, I'm going to turn it over to Erin to talk a little bit more about her reflection.
I think the thing that we're just trying to make sure that people understand and can see the mission of what we're trying to do, because the work that we're doing is to make sure that Iowa students are able to compete, one, across the board, but also that they are fulfilling the goals that they set for themselves. And so when we do the early outreach and the consistent exposure to the ideas of college, the ideas of work, that gives us an opportunity to help them set some SMART goals. One of the things that I think is always funny is I did goals with the 7th grade class that I was in, and I had at least 3 or 4 young men say, well, I'm planning on playing Division I ball, and then I'm going to have a contract. And I'm like, that's great, but I'm not sure that that's always the way that it works. But I said, so how important is literacy to you? I won't need literacy. I just need to know how to swing a bat. Well, who's going to read your contracts? Who's going to understand the math of what it takes to figure out a salary that's this many percent over 6 years? And, there were all these things, and it gave me an opportunity to push that back on them a little bit and say, I think that's cool. And I think you are a really good baseball player. But tell me, what does that look like in the real world? How will that be when you are all of a sudden 18 and ready to make these decisions? So we talk a lot about how important it is to also have this element, we call them non-cognitive learning, but it's that social emotional learning. People need to understand why their reaction is maybe tied to what they're feeling rather than what they're thinking or what's going around them. The perfect example of this is what's happening with COVID-19. No way did I figure on March 12th, when I went home and knew I was going to have to be home because my daughter had been in Mexico for a student exchange, did I think I was never going to see any of our seniors again. That still is a little bit weird, I think, for all four of us, because we were so used to being in buildings and getting to see students and getting to see staff and how's it going. But when we talk about one of the things that we like to do, persistence is incredibly important. And students that can persist through every single month since the pandemic started, we have continued to have students that finish their FAFSA. That says to me that some of the things that you as their school teams and we as their Gear Up people have helped them realize there has got to be more for me potentially out there. And how am I going to get that? So if you can take the things that we're talking about and break it down into ACT testing, FAFSA completion, post-secondary enrollment, or workforce, gathering the workforce, we in Iowa are on the cusp of doing something really amazing, because we're creating a culture educationally that says post-secondary work is critical, whether it's a training or whether it's actually going to college. We are okay that you want to do something and continue on, but we are okay if right now you want to work at Target or you want to work for the construction company that your uncle owns. That is okay. I think if we meet kids where they are, we will be able to then say to them, all right, this is cool. This is where you are. Think about, though, if you made a SMART goal, where would you want to be in 5 years? It's using all of the things that we all know, but putting them together and having this extra layer of support from Gear Up Iowa, from the coaches and the teams that you have in your buildings. We just want to encourage all of you to consider how much you can accomplish when you really can focus. And having a master's degree in school counseling, I completely understand that when you have a caseload of 800 or 900 students, it's really hard to figure that out. I have 1,000 students right now that we think more or less that did not show up on a campus. That is my task starting in November, is to say, hey, how you doing? Where you been? They don't know me. They know you. So let us come in and support the work that you're doing and give you that extra layer of, wouldn't it be great if? Because then we can bring our kids that have less. We can bring our kids, students of color and students that feel marginalized, into this equity that allows everyone to achieve things on a level that is amazing, versus just, this is where I'm at. You can tell I get a little excited about this. I know Nate and Gracie and Elizabeth get a little excited about this. This is the work we've chosen to do. And there's nothing that fills your cup more than watching 450 kids give you a high five when they walk past you as they're about to graduate, like when I was a Gear Up coach at East High School. That was amazing. That was one of the best things I've ever gotten to see. So if you can take the idea that somebody from outside of your community wants to come in and help you, then we got some stuff for you. And I think Nate's going to take you through a little bit about what that's going to look like. But please know that we're excited and we are ready to have you if you want to be part of our team.
Thank you so much, Erin. And what a great segue. So Gear Up for a state grant, you can only have one at a time. And ours is coming to a close here next year. And so we are in the process of, Iowa College Aid intends to write another Gear Up grant. And pending that award, we would start next fall for fall of 2021. If this is something that you're interested in, kind of going back and thinking about, closing that intention gap in your district. If you think partnering up with Gear Up and Iowa College Aid is something that could help you better serve your students, we really would like you to consider that. So there will be a link for an intention survey that you can fill out. There are some federal guidelines that we need to follow. And if your school, for example, doesn't have 50% or more of the students on free reduced price lunch, unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to partner with you in this capacity. But if you meet that qualification and fill out this interest survey, you'll be able to get up-to-date information, and that'll give you then a chance to be able to apply and be considered as a partner for a future Gear Up Iowa grant. And so we really hope you take that time to fill that out and at least give us some feedback on ways that we could improve our model. And with that, obviously this was recorded, so we won't be able to answer your questions right this second. But if you do have questions, please don't hesitate. You can direct any questions around partnering to Carmen Long. She is our Gear Up coordinator, and she would be able to help answer any of those questions. Otherwise, please feel free to reach out to any of us as facilitators. All of our emails are listed on the slide. We will also have a worksheet where you will find our emails. But please do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And I can't tell you how grateful I am that you took the time to listen to our presentation today. We are extremely passionate about the work that we do, and we look forward to the possibility of partnering with you in the future. Thank you.